Today on Beyond 6 Seconds.
Senior executives, when they are transitioned out, even when it's voluntary, are susceptible to depression and to a feeling of loss. So what we offer with our holistic approach is for them to be engaged, for them to remain productive while they are in that period of transition.
Welcome to Beyond 6 Seconds, the podcast that goes beyond the 6-second first impression to share the extraordinary stories and achievements of everyday people. I'm your host, Carolyn Keel. Today, we're talking with Petal Pennycooke. She's the founder and chief executive right hand of Executive Right Hand. Petal, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, Petal, tell me about Executive Right Hand and what services does it provide?
So, Executive Right Hand is a premium provider of executive support to chief executive level clients who are in transition. Mm-hmm. So we partner with executives to help them maintain their executive presence during periods of transition. That might be retirement, that might be between roles, it might be looking at philanthropy. Whatever it is, when they are being transferred from a corporate role, when they are exited the organization, we are an alternative or a supplement to executive outplacement because the top tier senior executive requires a different set of resources to be successful.
Mm-hmm. I see. And what kind of services do you provide to them?
We take a holistic approach to our executive clients. So they may keep some benefits when they leave the organization. But the thing they lose on day one is that right-hand person, mm-hmm. the person who may take care of their calendar, who knows where the doctor's appointments are, who provides directions in their device, the person who knows all the ins and outs, the person who keeps it seamless. So what we seek to do is to fill the gap to make transition seamless.
I see. So then how are your services different from, say, what a virtual assistant would provide?
A virtual assistant is more task-oriented. An executive right hand is more leader-oriented. So we treat the leader as a leader, even though they are in transition. So we capture as much data as we can from their last assistant. We build a dossier on them. We talk to them. We have conversations. They can bounce things off of us. We are filling the gap left by that resource. So we are moving people away from calling us a virtual assistant because we are just so much more than that.
I see.
If a senior executive has had really good support, and even if they haven't, if they've had mediocre support, we bring our A game every day. I say we want to be the American Express Centurion Black Card, where when you slip that across the counter, people look and go, their back's straight, and the customer service goes to a whole other level. And we want to be the people that executives go to HR and say, I need a new assistant, but I want an executive right hand. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's my goal, is for us to be that kind of a brand.
Right. Excellent.
We also do training and coaching of executive assistants to help them, whether they have a new leader or they're seeking to make their way up the corporate ladder into the C-suite. We help them with the soft skills needed to be that executive right hand.
Oh, interesting. So when you work with senior executives, would they still be employed at the time or already in transition?
They may be still employed. They may be in transition. We can go in when an executive is in transition, say they've moved into a new role. Well, we've been supporting them for usually 3 to 6 months is the average time. We'll go in and do a 2-week coaching of the new assistant to help that person have a more seamless onboarding with their new executive.
That makes perfect sense. So where did you get the inspiration to create this business?
Actually, it was while working for a Fortune 500 retailer in their talent management group. I saw a lot of transitions happen, sometimes internal, sometimes people were transitioned out of the organization. Well, what I realized was that when a senior level executive left, they seemed to miss that executive assistant that resourced more, because they would sometimes call back and ask, name things like, my doctor's appointment, could you give me the information for that? Or do you have my Sky Miles number or my Hyatt number? So I looked at that and I saw a pain point. And I thought, well, if I could help these leaders to transition, then possibly I could make their lives easier and make what the company spends their money on, which is outplacement assistance, more valuable.
So is that kind of how you decided what types of services to offer from what you had seen in your own experience that people needed?
Absolutely. Over 20 years of experience working with senior executives, companies like Citibank, the Home Depot, AT&T, large corporations, and all of them have executive outplacement assistance. And while some use it, the most senior level executives traditionally don't use it. Because I actually launched this in 2008. And in 2009, it was the second place winner in a concept to reality competition at Kennesaw State University in Atlanta, Georgia, where we were voted second most likely to be successful of all the competitors.
That's awesome.
Everyone thought it was such a unique idea because you could hire a temp, yes, but to have someone who would capture your data and stay with you and help to transition you, that was unique. And if I tell it to someone who is not a senior executive, they'll go, oh, but if they don't have a job, why do they need an assistant? But that's exactly why.
Right.
Because we treat the leader as a leader. Whether they have a team that they're leading or not, we still treat them as a leader. And we give them that ability to not have to pick up the phone themselves and ask for a meeting. We do that on their behalf. So it's really a soft touch expertise, and it requires a unique set of skills to be an executive right hand.
Absolutely. And how long do you usually work with clients?
We figure the average assignment will run between 3 and 6 months, depending on the leader. And, some may go to a new role in 6 weeks, but 3 to 6 months is about on average.
I see. So you mentioned that you started the business in 2008. What was involved in getting that developed and off the ground?
So one of the first things I did was took advantage of the group of IO psychologists that I worked with. And they helped me to prepare my questionnaire, my survey that I would utilize. I then had access to many senior executives, both within the organization and outside of the organization, people that I spoke to regularly who were excited to give me feedback. And so that's really how the coaching piece came in, because one of the executives I spoke to said, Petal, I think you need to build an army of Petals. So I added the coaching piece. And then I also operate an IATAN accredited travel agency, because sometimes the executive may decide I need to take an extended vacation to decompress. So we offer that. Or if they need event planning, we offer that. So there are a number of different pieces to what we do. Most recently, we've begun piloting administration for small nonprofits. So a small nonprofit approached us and asked us, could we do the administration, the program management of their nonprofit? Because they're not big enough to afford an executive director. But if we would handle some of the operations for them, then they would be able to be more effective. So we're piloting that right now with the Aqua Foundation. They are very interested in helping in the areas of education and training, public safety, and their third area is community health. So we have a broad skill set that we are utilizing at this time. And as we are ramping up, as we're growing, we're scaling to add more features. For right now, at the base is our executive support. Mm-hmm. And then the coaching rises out of that. The philanthropy comes after that. Mm-hmm. So all of the pieces fit together ultimately.
Wow, that's a really robust and unique set of services.
It is.
How many clients do you usually have at one time?
So at this point, we are in pre-startup again. So, when I started in 2008, it was just when the economy was about to nosedive.
Right.
And so in 2010, I had to do a realistic view and go, you know what? This is not going to be sustainable. Many companies were not transitioning out senior executives because it was better to maintain the status quo during periods of upheaval. Oh. So I didn't abandon it. I kept paying the fees, but then I went back to work, and it was supposed to only go back to work for 2 years to come back to the business. But then I got a promotion, and then I decided to go to school. And so I moved to Florida to finish my degree in psychology to take the coaching part of the business to the next level and to get some of those IO psychology skill sets that I so admired from the team that I worked for. So now we anticipate that at any given time, we will have 2 to 4 clients as we are in pre-launch. We just pitched a pilot to a Fortune 100 company. So we would start with 4 at the beginning and scale from there.
Wow, that's really exciting.
Yes.
As the founder of a business that you're managing and growing, which of your skills have been the most important for your business's success?
Relentless hope and belief. At the end of the day, I am skilled at what I do. I, as I said, have more than 20 years experience, and I understand people. I'm an empath. I am able to listen and clearly get what people are trying to tell me, even the unspoken things. That, I would say, is my area of gifting. So it allows me to be proactive. It allows me to anticipate needs where bosses have asked me in the past, can you read minds? If only.
Right.
But it appears that way because I take an active interest in my leader. And that is the unique piece I am trying to bring to Executive Right Hand. That even though this leader is in transition, they still feel respected. They still feel encouraged to participate in the process that will take them to their next role or their philanthropic endeavor or entrepreneurship. We also partner with franchise organization that they help executives to decide if they want to become a franchise owner. So we're giving, as I said, a holistic approach and a robust onboarding and offboarding process that allows the executive to still be a leader, even in a period of transition.
I see. So you've really got a wide range of services available, and sounds like you tailor them for what each senior executive needs. I can see how that really eases the transition for them.
Absolutely.
That's great. So obviously owning and starting a new business comes with, many challenges, as you've alluded to.
Yes.
If you wouldn't mind, tell me a little bit about the biggest challenge you've faced in launching your business and how you've overcome it.
So I would say my biggest challenge is doing everything. I'm business development, I'm sales and marketing. Ensuring that follow-up happens when you are the one person is really a huge challenge. But in the new year, in January, as we do our soft launch, I will be taking on one person who will begin to help me with that. And we will scale from there.
That's great.
I also have a second person who is ready once we have the pilot ready to go, who will also be joining us. And the point of the pilot is to see where it works best and how to change and adapt. So we're looking for a hard launch in the spring. And in the meantime, I will be visiting New York and Boston and anywhere I can find people to talk to me about executive right hand and either replacing or supplementing their executive outplacement services for their senior leadership team. It'll take generally 2 to 3 months to onboard a corporate client anyway.
Sure.
So I think that this pilot will help us to be ready for that client when we get our next 2 to 3 clients in the next 3 months.
All right, very good. And I should mention that even though you're based in Florida, you accept clients from all around the country and beyond, right?
All around the country, beyond. We actually have a place for expats.
Wow.
So if someone is in transition coming back to the States from overseas, we are here to assist them with that. If they're going to a new organization or the same organization and there are things that need to be done for them on a personal level, we will help with that. And transitioning them to their new assistant when they get here, we of course always help with that.
That's great.
And the biggest challenge I also had, aside from the money to scale the way I want to on the front end, but I am actually looking to possibly do a crowdfunding exercise to see if that'll raise me any funds. Because what we're looking at for executive right hand is probably a 2-year scaling. Because companies have already met their budgets for this year, are well on their way with their 2019. So 2020 is when I see us actually being profitable and locked and loaded. So that's part of it.
Now, I know you've mentioned you're currently in pre-launch with the business, having launched it initially in 2008. Now that you're starting up your business again, is there anything you're doing differently this time around?
Yes. What I did at that time was I was targeting the individual executives. So the change I've made, having learned from my mistakes, is that this is much better offered as part of an outplacement package. So my target client is now the corporate placement manager. So whoever manages that placement relationship. So usually it's the chief HR officer that I'll speak with, and they will put me through to the next person, whether in purchasing or whatever area, to iron out the details. But it's really getting the chief HR officer on board to see that, yes, this is a value. I'm getting agreement that the data shows that senior leaders are not using or taking advantage of the services of executive outplacement that the companies are paying for annually.
Right.
So the one Fortune 100 CHRO that I talked to, his reaction was, you are onto something there. Wow. I can see this being more cost effective and better utilized by the senior executives. You know, as a psych major, I learned research, and I found that the research says senior executives, when they are transitioned out, even when it's voluntary, are susceptible to depression and to a feeling of loss. So what we offer with our holistic approach is for them to be engaged, for them to remain productive while they are in that period of transition.
I see. Could you share some examples of how you've supported your clients in the past?
Absolutely. I had one client who actually, I did quite a bit of travel for him in his transition, and I did his destination wedding at the Ritz-Carlton in Jamaica.
Wow.
So literally it is, what do you need? We are here to serve that need. And I had another client, she was doing some consulting, so I did her travel just like if she was in corporate. She called me, she said, this is where I need to be. I arranged the car to pick her up, the car to take her back to the airport, her hotel, and any projects. So I do PowerPoints for her if she had a presentation. I kept her calendar if she needed that. It just depended on what the client needed at any given time.
So looking forward, what are your goals for Executive Right Hand?
So my goal right now is for us to scale and to get the executive support piece in such a place that more companies are using us so that we're able to fully staff. I have a great network of administrative professionals, many times who may be in their 40s and 50s, are not making it through the ATS systems, so are finding it difficult to find work.
Uh-huh.
And here we have a skilled group of people who sometimes are facing ageism, and I've got the solution. Because Executive Right Hand appreciates maturity and appreciates the ability to be loyal and stay and really understand, to see outside of oneself and see the needs of another person. And so my goal is to build that out as best I can. I want to develop a training program that will be copyrighted, of course. And as I said, develop a team of executive right hands. And at some point, I would love to franchise this.
That's awesome. You know, I'm really intrigued by what you were just saying about many talented people having trouble finding work these days when they're job searching. And you mentioned that you have the solution. Could you tell me more about how Executive Right Hand would help change this?
Absolutely. You know, there's lots of people out there who will tell you how to get through the ATS and to fool the ATS. But there are some of us out here who want to be valued and want to be seen as more than words on a paper. And we want a way to connect with other people who want to identify talent and hire talent that is more than just manipulating an ATS system.
Right.
So I would never call myself a disruptor in the hiring genre, but if I could be, I definitely would proudly be that disruptor, because I think the system on the whole is broken and it's not going to change. Companies have invested too much money to admit that it was a bad decision. And so they're caught in this place where it's not doing what it needs to, but, you know, how do you back out of it? And there's going to be one company that just makes the step and says, done. The 6-second resume look over. Every time I hear that, I cringe, because people are more than 6 seconds. And when I hear a recruiter say that, I say, gee, I don't want to work with you. You know, I want more, and people want to feel more valued than that. And that is what I hope to bring to the hiring, placing people with executives who have been treated well during their transition. And we've treated our people well when they were transitioning. So it's a mutual understanding.
So in a way, you're really starting to build a network of people who get it in terms of hiring, who value other people.
Absolutely. I may have to change my logo to a light bulb.
Wow, that is great.
Everywhere I go, I'm attending IAP meetings and I'm meeting new people who are either retired or looking for work. And I'm taking names and numbers.
Awesome.
Because occasionally a client may want to have a resource that's in their town that they can meet face to face occasionally.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the other things I'm hoping to do, is to use a company like Regis and offer space for the executive if they are wanting to get out of the house and wanting to go to a space, or co-working spaces, depending on what their individual need is.
Wow, you've really thought of every potential need that a senior executive might have. How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about Executive Right Hand?
So my brand spanking new website is at www.executiverightHand.com. And I have social media accounts on LinkedIn and Facebook at Executive Right Hand, and Twitter at ExecU Right Hand, EXECU Right Hand. All of them not very up to date right now. As I said, you know, I'm the head cook and bottle washer. So as we scale, those will become more engaging. But for right now, it's just the occasional post.
Perfect. And I can put that contact information into the show notes of the podcast so that people can have that easy to access as well.
Absolutely. And the number is on the website. I am always available for conversation, to tell people what we do. I've become the networking queen of Tampa Bay and Atlanta. And I'm headed to New York the first week of January to kick off the meetings there. If there is a call, I want to answer.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you're well on your way with your business. I wish you so much luck with Executive Right Hand. It sounds so exciting with a great vision and all the unique and valuable services you're offering too.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Well, thank you for having me, Carolyn.
Thanks for listening to the Beyond 6 Seconds podcast. Please subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player so you won't miss any episodes. You can also find all the show notes and links we discussed in this episode at our website, www.beyond6seconds.com. Until next time.